So welcome. I've got a lot to cover, so I'll get going. And I'd just like to get an idea from the audience. Do many of you have a website? Can you just give me a excellent? And do you make money from it? Could you make more money, do you think? Oh, just two of you. Come on. Okay. I'm going to have to be fairly rushed through this presentation, unfortunately, so I can't be too specific, but I'd like to give you one or two little tidbits to take away that could hopefully help you. But I could talk all day on this subject. It's something that I've developed a real passion for. And there are some challenges in getting ranked up in Google, but my expectation is that you could leave here with some insights on how to make your sites more profitable. So, do you all agree with the statement that if you're ranked high up in Google, that actually you can make a lot more money if you're on the first page? Does everybody agree with that? And if you're on page 7 or something, you're a needle in a haystack, effectively. So there is an art and a science involved in this, and there are ways to do this. And so my goal, as I say, would be to give you some insights into that. But I could talk about myself. My name is Nick, and I run an agency called everydaychampion.com. I'm not using the screen. Okay. I run an agency called everydaychampion.com. And I could stand here and talk about myself, but you don't want to hear about me. I'm more interested about you and why you're here and what you'd like to accomplish with your businesses online, and why you should have it, why you deserve it, and what you're prepared to do for it. So, as an introduction to search, a really great way, if you want to just educate yourselves a little bit, is this thing here from Google. If you Google Search Engine Optimization Starter Guide 2016, you'll get a nice 30-odd page document which will give you some very good basics to start with. But there's so much more to search engine optimization than just Google. Eric Schmidt, the director of Google, the other day was on record as saying their number one competitor, it's not Bing and Yahoo, they're not so concerned about that, but the number one competitor really is Amazon. Amazon is also a search engine. It's a search engine for people who have credit cards and are ready and willing to buy. And YouTube, of course, is a very, very dynamic search engine too, and YouTube is owned by Google, so Google loves video content, and it's also much easier to rank on YouTube, so that's something that's well worth bearing in mind. But in this day and age, so many people, we're all SEO experts, or so we say, and I now believe that this is one of the greatest skills in business that one can have. Google's constantly evolving, and even though they have a ton of genius PhD mathematicians working for it, there are times, and it's very clever, and you should not try and game the system and try and pull one over Google. But there are also times when you need to be really clear and treat Google almost as if it's a 5-year-old child, because no matter how sophisticated and clever it is, there are times you actually have to be very, very specific and almost childlike in your communication. But what does Google want? Google ultimately is a very successful advertising company, and it has to give its customers, all the searchers, it has to give them a good user experience. So it wants to promote websites that have good quality, solid content. And so a lot of ranking websites is just pure, simple, common sense. It wants natural things. It wants natural relationships. Not so long ago, I actually sat down and got a cold towel around my head, and I read the latest Google patent. It was quite a task, but it's very clear they're almost looking for natural patterns of the type you see in nature. So when you're seeing links to and from websites, it has to be done in a natural way. There's absolutely no point in paying somebody in India or the Philippines some money just to fire links at your website, because they're rubbish links on the whole, and Google will look at it and say this is no good, and will penalize you, and that's the last thing you want. If you go back a few years, it was actually very, very simple to rank sites. It was almost like an arms race of links, and people would just fire links at a website and other ones, and it was literally like the Cold War nuclear arms race. And then these the pandas and the penguins came out, and all of a sudden overnight there was a bloodbath, and websites that had ranked previously on techniques that were working just plummeted and disappeared from Google. So the most important thing is to build an SEO strategy that's sensible and natural, and one that will stand the test of time. And that's what I always do for my clients. I never lie awake at night worrying about what the next Google update is going to do, because I know what Google wants, and that's what I aim to give it. So if you go through this paper that I just mentioned, you'll come up with the basics. And you don't want to ignore Google, because in the old days a business would advertise in the yellow pages. Complete waste of time, it seems to me, to advertise in the yellow pages nowadays. What you really want is for your business, whether it's a national or a local business, to be ranked very highly for your specific keywords. Now, keywords are those phrases that you type into Google when you go in and do a search. And you need to be very clear about the keywords that people searching for you will be using. And there's a very good tool that can help you. If you go into a Google AdWords account and then type in Google, just type in Google keyword tool, and then there's this wonderful free tool that will help you set up your AdWords campaigns, that will give you the keywords you're looking for and the related ones, and so you'll actually see that, and you'll see how many people are searching for that search term in any given month. And you can narrow it down, of course, to google.co.uk if you wish. And then if you have a look at the AdWords, the people who are advertising, and see what the bid that's recommended for those terms, and see how many searches there are for a month, you can then get an idea of just how big that market is. Multiply the number of searches by the amount of money people are prepared to pay to advertise there, and you will get a sense of just how big that particular market is. Is that clear? Do you understand? I'm going through everything very quickly, so I do apologize for that. You want your messages to be clear and relevant. That's obviously very important in terms of the branding and what the messages you're trying to communicate. And you do need original content. I mean, it's almost rather silly to say this, but you actually have to have stuff on your site that people are going to want to read and that are interesting and set you apart, and not just the same old that everyone else is doing. And you do need original content, and you can always check things on programs like Copyscape to see if there's anything else on the internet using the same language, because you don't want to be copying other material. You need to communicate your content. Really recommend to use videos. We live in a video age very much, and YouTube is easier to rank on than Google. And if you have a YouTube video and you embed it on your page, then you get a lot of brownie points with Google for that. Quite apart from anything else, Google owns YouTube, so it loves it. But if you have a YouTube video and you embed it, it's just a simple case of getting the code from the video from your YouTube account, putting it in the code on your page, and embedding your video. That will work wonders for your ranking. And it's also, people love watching videos, and if they come onto your homepage and they click around a bit and they click on the video and watch it, then your bounce rate is going to work in your favor. That's because Google measures everything, and if people tend to go onto your website and onto your homepage and they only stay there for 5 to 10 seconds and then leave and go somewhere else, well, Google figures it's not a very good site. But if people click and stay there, and watching a video is a very good way to make people stay there, then that really does help. your metrics. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the structure of your website. It needs to be logical and organized and easy to navigate. So then we come on to something which I call on-page optimization, and that's are your pages in your site, are they optimized properly? So you need to know what keywords you're targeting and make sure that they're on the article. It's a very good idea to have it in the title of the page. And the blue text, when you do a search on Google and the page comes up, the blue text above, I'm sure you all know what I mean. That's the title of your page, and you can control that. And if you use your keywords in there, then it's going to help it helps tell Google what your page is about, and that's what people see when the search comes up. That's known as the title tag. That's very important, and that's well described in this Google document here. And then there's page titles and descriptions that you can add in your dashboard at the back, and it's a good idea to do that with a view to what people are actually looking for. And it's the same with images. It's a good idea to put some text on the back of the image, the alt image text. And the language you use when you link from one page to another, it's known as the anchor text. And it's a very good idea to use language that gives a succinct description of the page that you're linking to and uses the right keywords there. Now you've also got to try and make your site nice and friendly for the robots that come along, the crawlers, and so it's a very good idea to put in a robot text file, which basically makes your site much more easy to search for the robots. And if the robots can search it more easily, then your pages will be listed, or much more likely to be listed. And another thing from today that's really, really essential is that your websites are mobile friendly. I'm sure you've all noticed that everybody's got their mobiles everywhere, and on the tube, everybody's got their mobiles out, and that's what people use to surf now. And if your website doesn't work on a mobile phone or looks really bad, then it's really going to be detrimental to your ranking. So you need to make sure your websites are mobile friendly, and that's getting more and more and more important. I'd like to touch briefly on what I call an ecosystem around your main website. And what I mean by that is the Facebook page, the Twitter page, LinkedIn, Google Plus, and all those things. It's a really good idea to use Google Plus. I mean, it's a Google property after all, so even if nobody looks at it, even if you don't use it, Google likes it. Even if most people in this room use Facebook a lot more, Google really likes it, and it has a lot of power. So you might as well set one up, because it can only help your ranking. And as I mentioned before, don't forget YouTube. YouTube is really useful for getting your message out, and as I say, it's a lot easier to rank on Google currently than it is on Google. And if you embed your videos on your homepage, then that will help you a lot too. Now, one of the things that is probably quite a useful thing to look at is your competition, and what are they doing? What are their links? Where are they advertising? Because nothing much is secret on the internet. There's pretty much a way to find anything you could possibly want to find. One very useful tool is called SEMRush. That's SEMRush. And if you go on and you use SEMRush, you can find out all sorts of stuff about your competition. And I'm not necessarily recommending that you copy what they do, but you can model yourself on what they do to some extent. And it gives you an idea of what you're going to need to do to climb up the rankings. That's a very useful little trick to use. Now, I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm going through this material very quickly. I do apologize. It's basically because we have such a short amount of time and there's so much material. I mean, as I say, I could speak all day on this, so I hope the pace is okay. Links. This is ultimately one of the most important elements of ranking in Google. Linking, what I mean by that is if you have a website, xyz.com, and you get people linking to it, then it's kind of a vote, positive votes from other people that, hey, this website has some useful material. And Google counts the links up. And so if you have other websites linking to you, then that is a good thing. Does everybody understand with the basic premise of what I just said? Yeah, is that clear? Now, of course, some links are better than others. I mean, if I was selling sports equipment or sports paraphernalia, and I just done a blog piece trying to sell Leicester City football shirts, for example, and I put a piece up about Claudio Ranieri and how great his man management was and blah, blah, blah. Now, if that was your business, would you rather receive a link to that page or that blog from thedailymail.co.uk, or would you rather get a link from the Torquay United Supporters Association Singapore.com? Which would you prefer? Okay, I'm not getting answers. I would prefer the Daily Mail. I mean, you know, it has higher domain authority. It's a much more powerful site. If you look up the Alexa rankings, it's very high up there. It's one of the biggest websites in the world. The Torquay United Supporters Association Singapore is a minuscule little site. So obviously, some links are more powerful than others. But you don't want to just go off, as I alluded to before, and just get lots and lots of people sending any old links to your site, because you'll end up paying somebody to send you links from a Chinese escort agency or something, and it'll be in Chinese, and they'll send thousands of these things. It's just spam. It's just spam. So if you have lots and lots of spammy links pointing towards your site, you're in trouble. So link building is a very, very important strategy in ranking your site, but you have to tread very carefully. Oops, what's going on there? You have to tread very, very carefully and do it properly. And there's a very useful site, it's called Ahrefs, ahrefs.com, ahrefs.com, and that can help you understand what link profile you have, and you can see what there is. Now, links is pretty much has been for the last few years the primary factor and metric in ranking sites, and Google is gradually moving away from that. It's still very, very critical, and it's moving into something called the Semantic Web, and this is something that is going to be increasingly important in the next few years. And what that is data about data. So I'm not going to spend very much time on this. It's very in-depth and difficult to give just I'll need to go into a bit more detail to be really clear about it, but this is very, very important. And so you need to be putting code in the back of your sites which is telling Google exactly who you are and what sister properties you have and so on. And it's also giving more generalized information, so that, for example, if you were running a hotel in London and you were in a particular part of London, and you had a dynamic page which was giving information about local events coming up in the upcoming month, and this was constantly being updated, this is data about other data, then that is going to really help your cause as well. So that's increasingly becoming more important. Now then, of course, we have the whole issue of promotion, how you promote your website. There's all the traditional offline methods. There's lots of directories and free ads. It's a very, very good idea to have a lot of citations for your website. And what a citation is, if you're a local business and you have a listing on Yelp, and that listing has the exact same address and phone number that you have on your site, and you list it on a few other business directories, then you'll be getting links back from trusted websites, and gives Google the message much more that you are a real business. And the more Google can see that you're a real business, the more it's going to bump you up the rankings. So these are little things that anybody can do, and they're well worth doing. It'll just take a little bit of time to do it once, just a few hours one afternoon, but it's time very, very well spent. Now, of course, there's lots of ways of promoting your website using advertising. AdWords is a very, very common way of doing it. You really need to know what you're doing, because it's very easy to burn through your budget doing that. But ultimately, the holy grail is if you were spending £100 on Google AdWords and you were making £500 in sales from that, how much advertising would you spend? Well, I'd spend as much as I possibly could, frankly, but that's the holy grail. If you have to learn how to target properly, and it's very easy to be too general and to waste your budget on words that aren't working and phrases that aren't working. So you constantly have to test and split test and change your copy and get to the right formula that works. And that takes time, and you have to be very scientific about it. But when you can do that, if your message on your site is clear and you have good conversion on your site, then that's a really great way to go. And of course, there's also Facebook advertising with pictures and videos. Videos work really, really well on Facebook. And you can drill down and target such a very specific demographic on Facebook. It's frightening. And if you knew just 10% of what I know about Facebook, you might not be so keen on giving Facebook all the intimate details of your lives. If you want to sell something to baby boomers who love rock and roll music, particularly Eric Clapton, and are really into Star Trek, you got it. You can go absolutely straight to a particular demographic and really laser target your advertising. One other tip that I really recommend is advertising on YouTube. It's relatively new. It's much easier to do than Facebook, which has been going for a little bit. It's better known, but YouTube is a really great way where you can actually advertise for quite a bit more cheaply, and you can get some really, really good results. If any of you have businesses or brands that are very, very visual, you're in fashion or something like that, then Instagram is an amazing place to go. If any of you do have business like that, please come and talk to me, because I can really, really help you. It's pretty underground and it's not well known, and it's a gold mine there. And there's other ways of promoting your websites using webinars, and that's again is a whole topic that I could talk about for a long time. And particularly if you have a book or something like that that's been published and you have a following on social media, webinars is a fantastic way where you can make some really good money. I'd like to talk about funnels and sales marketing funnels, because this is really cutting edge stuff and a very dynamic way to grow your businesses online. And what a sales marketing funnel is a sequence of events that you put your customer through. So, oh, and by the way, while I think about it, please don't forget emails. You must collect emails of your customers, people who visit you, because whatever else we talk about, AdWords, Facebook marketing, and everything else, email marketing is still brilliant if you communicate and you engage with your audience and you give them value and you train them to open your emails. Now, a sales funnel, if you sell a product, for example, or sell information or whatever it might be, if people come to your website and there's an email capture form, now people aren't going to give you their email just for the heck of it. If you give them something of value, then they will give you their email in return. So you could think about creating a report, a short kind of report that specifically solves a problem or some pain issue that your audience has, and you can solve it can be something very, very obscure. It doesn't have to, solve everything in the marketplace you're in, but if you can write something that's powerful and that people are going to want to have and is going to help people, then they will give you their email address, and then you have them to market to in future with a sequence of emails that you can follow up with, and they have to be written effectively using the psychology of sales, but not selling all the time. You have to be giving them information, good solid information that's going to be valuable to them. Now the funnel, if you're selling something, say for example you have a commerce store, an e-commerce store, and you're selling vitamin C tablets or royal jelly tablets or something, and somebody's come through and bought a packet, a box of royal jelly, great, you've got a sale. But in the funnel, if they've just bought, you can then take them to another page which they only see if they've come from that sales page. Or you can do something which might sound crazy. You can offer them 6 little cartons of royal jelly, 6 months supply, and give them a whatever, 30-40% discount. Now you might think that's crazy. If they just bought 1 royal jelly, why on earth are they going to buy 6 straight away? Well, the plain fact of the matter is that a lot of people do. Not everyone, of course, but a lot of people do. And that works in the supplement business. And there are other different funnels that work in other businesses, whether you're business coaching, consulting, even trying to promote a network marketing opportunity or anything like that. There are different funnels that work for different industries. And if you build a really great funnel onto your website, that can massively increase your return on investment. It's a brilliant thing to do, and you need to research the field that you're in and see what kind of funnels work in your niche, in your sector. But that's something that's really worth considering. It's very cutting edge, and it really can make your business a big difference in your business. Do you understand what I meant by the funnel? Was that clear-ish? I'm very conscious I'm whizzing through this very fast, so apologize for that. So time's gone very quickly. I knew it would. So what I wanted to, oops, just lost my place, is just to conclude, make sure that your sites are engaging. Your websites must be engaging. They must really keep people on the page, reading your material, watching your videos, updating it, so it's not a website that's set in stone, that is constantly evolving. It's a great opportunity to brand yourself, to promote your message, to be compelling, and to really create a brand identity. And of course, everything you do on your website depends on who you are and what you do. If your business is, you're an emergency plumber in Neasden, well, all you really need is a phone number. Because people have got a problem, they got water gushing out of their bathroom, they need a plumber now, and it's midnight on Sunday evening or something. They just need a phone number. So, but they go onto Google, and you want to be up there at the top, and your website has got to make sure everything is geared towards giving that phone number. Because they don't want to send you an email and have you reply to them 12 hours later. They want you to come round now and fix their water problem. And of course, on the other hand, if you're selling antique clocks. Your market is the world. The world is your oyster. Your primary market might be London and the rest of the UK, but you need to think about the possibilities of finding customers from all over the planet, and that's what makes the internet so amazing. And if you have a business like that, getting to the top ranking on page 1, that can really, really do something extraordinary for your bottom line. Now, it's really critical to fireproof your site. You can do it-yourself DIY SEO. Many entrepreneurs will want to do that. My personal opinion is that if you're an entrepreneur and you run a business and you're selling something, I would encourage you to spend your time doing what you're good at, what you're great at, and you love doing. Don't have to suddenly learn how to fix computers when they break down. You don't have to learn, and you don't have to learn SEO. I think it's a better deal to give it to somebody, to an expert, to do the heavy lifting for you, whether it's me or somebody else. And it is very important that you pick somebody who does know what they're doing. I had a friend the other day, she had a site and she gave it to her brother's friend to do, and it came back and a whole load of her links were broken. So actually that person had harmed her website, and it's easy to do. And if you try and game Google, you try and play around with it, you will get caught, and it will do more harm than good. So please don't get a cowboy. I love this stuff. I've mentors that I've learned from people who are remarkably gifted at this, and I'm personally committed to becoming a master of internet traffic, but I still have a lot to learn. I know a lot, but I still have a lot to learn. It's something you're constantly learning. SEO is a very creative process. It's fun, and it does embrace psychology, that you have to understand who your clients and your customers are. It's already 2:30. I went through this very, very quickly. It's been my pleasure to talk to you. I hope I've opened your eyes to some possibilities and given you some practical ideas as well. And if you do have a business online, think about doing some serious search engine optimization, because it can give you a massive unfair advantage over other people. Thank you very much.